7.4, consideration of update regarding timeline for mandatory advanced planning projects and staff resource capacity within the Community Development Department. Director Turner, do you want to be there or here?
I feel like standing today, if that's all
Okay.
right. Johanna's going to pull up a PowerPoint that I want to thank our assistant planner, Mary Claiborne, for whipping together for me in like 5 minutes notice. I appreciate that. So today's update will end focusing on planning and the capacity, all the many exciting projects that we are doing in planning. But I also wanted to just take a moment real quick to just kind of highlight the other two divisions. In community development, we have code enforcement, we have building and safety, and we have planning. We have a total staff of about 36, that's including me. And just a couple of the highlights will sound a lot like what came out of the governance workshop, but I want you to just, the point of sort of reiterating this data is to help you have a visual of all the things that are going on in the department on any given day. For code enforcement, our cannabis officers removed over 25,000 plants. We have taken care of 90,833 pounds of debris. And we have also focused on getting all of our officers certified. We're going to continue with this activity. We have another year of the Roadmap Task Force, and so we'll continue to focus on the community of Clear Lake Oaks. We also have two code enforcement officers dedicated to cannabis, and so they're working in tandem both with our planning, our cannabis subdivision of planning, as well as the sheriff's office and multiple other agencies as they get involved to help ensure the code is being complied specific to cannabis. Next one, please. Oh, and there are 9 of those. We have 9 code enforcement people, staff. We have 16 staff members in building. And just a couple stats I wanted to point out is last year they issued over 1,600 permits and conducted over 4,000 inspections, as well as a strong surge in getting all staff certified, no matter what type of certification it was. The building inspectors are working on the different building code certifications. Our techs are working on becoming certified code or certified CDD technicians for building. So education and staff enrichment and development is happening at all levels within that division as well. On to planning. All right, you guys know this. This is the table I've been kind of sharing with the whole community. We've visited a number of town halls, councils, groups, and if the board has a group or a town hall or something where you think that you'd like me to go and talk about, I'd be more than happy to. So in planning, we have 12 staff members, including 4 for cannabis, full-time and part-time. We have a number of accomplishments that, sorry, planners, I'm actually skipping over that part because I want to get to this part. So, as is common with a small staff with limited resources, our advanced planning projects are usually the things that get kind of shoved aside because we're so busy processing use permits, parcel maps, things that actually are turning things around in the community today. So we don't really think about our visioning projects for tomorrow. Unfortunately, a lot of these visioning projects have deadlines and state mandates. And so when you keep shoving stuff, kicking the can down that road, we end up where we are now, which is we can't kick that can anymore because our general plan update is due in 2028. And before we do that, there are 8 area plans to update so that our community vision for our small communities and our overall county visions are in sync. We also, in 2008, identified the safety element as a part of that general plan that should be updated as soon as possible. That was in 2008. It hasn't happened yet. So that is at the top of that priority list. Now, all of these groups, all of these projects together are referred to as, in our department, the general plan update and associated document updates. This list is a little bit fluid because we received really great news from HCD that we do not have to do the housing element. And let me tell you, a 3-month turnaround on the housing element was totally making me wake up at 3:30 in the morning, because it's hard to fathom getting that done. Each of these elements takes a significant amount of effort. You're gathering all the relevant data for each element. And I don't have them all listed. I have the special ones, like the safety element, because we really need to get that done. It's mandated in law after you update your housing element, you better update your safety element too. So that's why that one's called out in particular. At the bottom of our list, you'll see we have two other elements. Now, that is the aggregate resource management plan and the agriculture element. The state, HCD, gives you the possibility, gives you a number of mandated elements, which are just different chapters in the general plan. So a number of those are required. However, it also allows counties to establish a standalone element for items that are of particular interest in that county. And so that's why we have the agricultural element and the aggregate resource management plan, because we really care about our ag here, and we really care about what's being pulled out of the ground, both in our creek areas and in our quarries. So each of these plans, this is a very ambitious timeline. I've personally never seen it, this much focus on this much advanced planning and this much required dedication of staff resources. I've heard it's happened. Some contractor in Sacramento gave me like one other county example where it's happened. So it's still so rare, and so it's such an exciting and scary opportunity that my staff is like starting to get all ramped up, because I'm telling them if they survive this project 5 years and come out the other end, they're going to have this whopper of a jewel to put on their resumes. So luckily that seems to excite some of them, because they're all about as geeky as me. Anyway, the whole point of going over this is to conclude with the core value of our department, which is one of the core values, which is the board-supported priorities will always be our priority in our department. But as you think about it as a board, as you're talking about future projects, because there's always going to be, new political hot potatoes and new issues that come up that seem very urgent, can be actually very urgent. I would just really appreciate it when you're thinking about how the new project that you're considering may affect community development, that you just sort of think about it through this filter. We can't move these priorities anymore. It's going to take pretty much all of our staff to be focused and touching them at one point or another. Because even though I'm hoping to attract a planning firm that will be substantive and helpful in helping us get this done, they're not going to be our local experts. My department, our staff, is going to be our local experts. And so that's why no matter what level, no matter what division, we're going to be depending heavily on our staff to help this project move forward. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We're really excited about all the projects we work on in planning. It's always fun. Building is crucial to moving forward as our community develops and recovers. And code enforcement, of course, is essential to making sure that these communities are places where we all really like to go home to. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing this presentation to us. These long-term planning projects have been at the top of our priority list for the last several years. So we're really excited to see this initiated. I have a question about the area plans, and I know we've discussed this before, but how will that outreach to the different communities kind of unfold as you're preparing for the 2024 year?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. That is part of why I am letting all the supervisors know if there's some group that I haven't visited yet, please let me know. And the reason why is because the area plans are the chance for our local communities to have their voice in visioning for what they want. And as you know, all of our area plans are either really old or somewhat old. They all need to be updated. And our county has gone through so many changes in our communities due to wildfire, flooding, just general overturn. It could be economy-based, that we really need to capture the vision of the community, who we are now, and where we want to go. And so in the area plans, that's our opportunity to do that. So we have an idea that we're hoping will help move these along faster than, if we just did them one at a time. So our staff is working on a checklist of the data that is standard in each area plan, the demographics, who are we as a community, how many people do we have now, what are our areas of special preservation, things like that. We're going to distribute this checklist when we get to the area plan line in our table. We're going to distribute this checklist to these different town halls, town councils, the groups where members of our community are already gathering and to talk about the community and where we want to go. That is because a lot of that data that we're going to gather it's objective. It's not visioning part, it's the data gathering part. So then we're going to start with the oldest, Lower Lake, and eventually move our way down according to dates of adoption and start working with each group individually. And that's when we're going to expand it. It won't be limited to town halls by that point. What I'd really like to see is a booth, a planning booth that becomes just sort of like a regular at the town fairs or at the Lake County Fair or at places where all members of our community are gathering that may not necessarily go to a one-time night meeting. This is where we really need to work on community vision driving the project and not just sort of, the last thing I want to do is have like one community meeting and be like, yeah, we got all that public input. We really need to work harder to get ideas from all parts of the community. And so that's going to be the second step. So the first step is the checklist. The second step is the visioning.
What's the timeline on that checklist? Like, when do you want the town halls to start working on
It's in
that?
process right now.
Okay.
I don't have a timeline when we can get it out yet because we have been focused on the RFP. And we were trying to get started doing the housing element since we wouldn't have enough time because RFPs take a time, the whole selection process. So, and so now we're shifting over to general plan, area plan checklists.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who was first over here. Supervisor Crandall?
Okay. Yes, I think it's ideal, of course, for the town halls. I know it's listed in the law that created them in the 70s. So it's a real ideal thing to do. Gene Polino, when he was the chair of Worth, held, I think, 3 meetings to try and collaborate all of the town halls together to address this, because his feeling and a lot of the feeling of the community was that if they could just work on it, if they would work on it on their own prior to coming to a meeting like you're going to be coming in and presenting, they can have a feel as to what they're doing and be kind of ahead of the game. And so I hope that maybe that could be something as well. So once I know the timeline that you have, we could relay it to the town chairs and groups.
That's wonderful, particularly in jurisdictions that have multiple town councils and town halls. Yeah, for them to be coordinating so there's a unified voice for the community would be really good.
Right, because I know Upper Lake represents Nice and Upper Lake, so the Worth Town Hall does that, and then Shoreline covers Lucerne down to Clear Lake Oaks, I think. So there would have to be something of that nature going on. But yeah, no, thank you for bringing
Well,
this.
we're looking forward to working with every one of them.
The reason I was asking about town or timelines is that Kelseyville doesn't have a town hall, and so we need to put together an advisory group for that to start working on that. So is that something that you want to accomplish this year, or is that something?
I think we're looking at that next year.
Okay.
We're trying to get a firm on board right now and get started on that safety element, because part of that safety element is the climate vulnerability analysis, which will also inform a number of other important county documents. And so that's what we're focusing on for this year. But as soon as we can start integrating that, we're going to, the next step with our area plans, then we're going to get right on it. So,
Okay, great. Supervisor Spatier.
I appreciate the efforts made to try to do what we've been asking for quite a while, which is to update these area plans. I think we talked about it in 2019 when we first got here. It's important to update. The plans are, one of them is 1985, I believe.
88.
88. A few things have changed since then. The internet didn't even exist. So I think it's nice to get a clean slate. I think the timing with our economic development and housing division is also impeccable, because I think the missing piece, which is not going to come from you, in my opinion, it's going to come from the other division, is how are we marketing ourselves to fill in the gaps that we have? Your job is to process those applications in the appropriate ways and make sure they meet the foundation that we created, but we have to figure out how to fill it in and not just wait organically for people to show up. I know both cities have retail attraction contractors that are going around trying to fill in vacant commercial buildings. We have PDCs that are just sitting there and waiting again for somebody to do something, and I think that by cleaning everything up, making sure it's all up to date, and having our new division, I think all of that put together is going to be absolutely perfect timing. My last thing is just the acknowledgement. I have seen the books that your building officials have to go through. This is not a simple Cliff Note type of book to go through and then pass a test. They look like they're close to 1,000 pages, and it's multiple books to go through, which kind of, it's insane how many codes there are to follow, but it's all about safety and making sure that what we're building is going to still be there in decades from now. So appreciate their hard work in order to try to get certified for everything we need so we can go ahead and serve the public to our best ability. So thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Supervisor Green?
Thank you. I'm excited too, in a nerd kind of way, but 5 years of work. Temporary enthusiasm. Two questions. So one, super excited to see aggregate resource management on there. A little bit later down the road, but excited to see it there. But having it move that far back, because the plan is kind of an overarching thing, it wouldn't, putting it that far out would not preclude us from considering site-specific remediation projects that might come to our attention, even as we're taking 5 years down the road to take a look at the more global vision for aggregate extraction.
Well, remediation is part of the existing plan right now, so yeah, nope, no problem.
Okay. And then on the safety plan update, it's unclear. I'm looking at our circulation element right now. So the safety plan and evacuation routes kind of go hand in hand, but I was wondering, is the safety plan update kind of require the circulation element to kind of come along with it to get updated or not? Because I'm not seeing a lot about safety or evacuation routes in our current circulation element.
Well, your comment brings up a really good point. There are additional implementation programs from other plans that are not on my 5-year timeline, but are actually kind of hovering there in the wings. The local hazard mitigation plan names community development as responsible for a resiliency plan, a climate action plan, emergency evacuation routes. I can't remember what else. And so even though I may not sound all excited and supportive when I'm talking to our Chief Climate Resiliency Officer about bringing all that on, it's important, and I am very thankful for the support of other departments to help us get that done. So that circulation is actually its own plan, and I don't want to say I don't think I can get away from doing it right now. It's something that we're going to have to weave into the plan, into our 5-year timeline, yes, because it's these plans and implementation programs are essential for accomplishing those goals so that then when you update these plans, they still serve as valuable tools for all of our departments and agencies to be able to secure funding because we're working on capturing those. So we have to hold up our end.
Yes.
So just to paraphrase, looking ahead, evacuation planning could land in multiple plans, safety element, circulation element someday, and then our resiliency plan when that gels.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, it actually, I can think of maybe 4 elements right now that it'll inform. Public infrastructure, our resources, our safety, our transportation, a number of different elements, as well as it be important data for our area plans too. And I'm not sure which one feeds which, because with our local experts, our members of the public, they're going to have input on that as well. But just as our department always stands ready to assist other departments in projects that they've going on, we're going to rely a lot on the expertise of other departments as well, like roads or emergency services, things like that, to help us inform our evacuation plans. Sheriff's office, the people who, evacuate people, not us. So it's going to be a team effort.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight evacuation planning and how it might land in these various plans.
Yes.
And I'll just add that they're area specific too. So, we've got the evacuation grant right now with the Rivieras, and so the Conocti Fire Safe Council is taking the lead on that. Cloudberry Council's worked on evacuation plans, so is South Lake Fire. So it can be really specific to the area. So if it's something you're concerned about, you can work with your advisory council on it right now. And then that's work that's prepared for her.
That's awesome. So, which I just want to close with, I'm going to be dependent on you guys too, because you have a lot of local expertise and knowledge that will help our department move faster, because we know how to reach out and get that data that we need to keep going. So, thank you.
Supervisor Spatier?
I just want to make one comment. I feel I need to explain why we've been asking since 2019 and it hasn't happened. We just haven't had stability in that department to be able to make that happen. And I feel better than I ever have with how the department is being led today. So I appreciate you making the presentation, because I really do believe that this is going to happen. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any input from the public? We do have a couple hands up. First, we have Betsy Kahn. If you can unmute and state your name, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Betsy Kahn, the Essential Public Information Center. And of course, this is a very welcome subject to me. And Maria, I know understands why I'm excited about this, along with you guys. But I have a couple of questions. One of them is in the Lucerne, what they call the shoreline area plan. The city of Clear Lake is included in the area plan, which to me is completely illogical, because it's a city and it has its own area plan. So I wonder if that will be pulled apart. Secondly, I don't have the information at hand right now, but I believe that the recent changes at the Office of Planning and Research called for updating the land use element along with the safety element and the housing element, because they're linked together. And I didn't hear mention of that. I might have missed it. And my concern there is that I think it seems to me evident that we need a programmatic EIR, something at that level, to address the multitude of land use issues that we're facing now in the development of cannabis, commercial cannabis operations, and perhaps changing some of the agricultural rules as well that we're learning about in regard to water and that sort of thing. So those are my two areas of concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we have phone 6205. If you want to unmute and state your name.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is Bart Levinson. Thank you, Supervisor Pyska, for mentioning the people who are not in town hall areas. I'm in one of those, and I'm very concerned about our community members without a council having a way to participate in this. So, number one. Number two, I'm concerned about, this is an incredibly daunting task, and I applaud the county, I applaud the CDD for taking on such a mammoth task. It becomes confusing. For instance, much of what the Cannabis Task Force is dealing with affects people living in residential areas and what they will live next to. And I'd like to see more outreach to the town halls in general, in terms of cannabis ordinance policy. And with the eye to, we all need to establish what is best for living in Lake County, for our businesses, for our industries, and for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments from the board? Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.